Recording. I'm going to give it a minute to see if some people sign on, and we'll get started here momentarily. Justin, if you want to go ahead and share your screen with the cover of the presentation, that's fine.
Sure.
All right, everybody. Since we're recording and in the interest of time, we're going to get going this evening. Welcome to tonight's 2022 Capital Improvements Project presentation. We're here tonight with several folks on our team that's involved in our construction projects. First, from Labella Associates, we have Justin Schaefer, one of the architects on the project. He'll be doing the majority of the speaking tonight. From Fiscal Advisors, who works on the financial end of things for our capital projects, we have Christine Crowley, construction management firm who operates and runs our projects once they're on the ground. From CNS Companies, Nate Van Wee. And then from the district, we have our Assistant Superintendent for Operations and Management, Robert Meza, and our Director of Facilities, Alex Rodriguez. Our purpose for tonight is to simply present to you the project that's been before the board last month for them to approve to go to the taxpayers, which will happen in a couple of weeks. Tonight's purpose is to show you the generality of the project, what we're looking to do, what we're hoping the voters will come out and vote on in a couple of weeks. And then next Tuesday night, we will have a similar presentation, but we'll allow community the opportunity to ask questions of the team that you see here tonight. This presentation will be on the website for those that couldn't make it tonight to be able to view. So it'll be more than a one-time viewing. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Justin, to kind of walk us through what we're looking to do.
Thanks, Peter. So I'm Justin Schaefer with Labella Associates, as Peter had mentioned. And I'm here to kind of walk through what we are presenting to the community as the 2022 Capital Improvements Project. So starting out as, main project goals here, we will be encapsulating most of the buildings across. So all of your elementary schools in what is titled the district-wide heading here will capture some building condition survey improvements, both interior and exterior, as well as reconstruction of some of the main office spaces to create a secure entry vestibule for better safety and security features for students and staff in all elementary schools. And jumping down to Rome Free Academy, we are exploring design options for a multi-use sports complex, and we will be resurfacing the tennis courts in with that complex, as well as including some interior systems improvements and upgrades, again, both interior and exterior. So here you can see all 7 elementary schools that we would be including with both building condition survey items and the secure vestibules with their associated estimates as of right now. So jumping into the first elementary school, some of the scope will be similar across all, but to the right, you will see our initial concept for that secure vestibule and main office suite. Some of the main offices do require some reorientation of spaces to make sure that we are providing the most secure vestibule and entry sequence that we can for students and visitors. So some of the building condition survey items we would capture would be domestic water and heating isolation valves throughout the building. as well as replacing the boilers and a few air handling units, including the makeup air unit in the kitchen cafeteria space. So jumping to Clough, this is the only elementary school that we do not currently have specific building condition items to be included, but we will be capturing a secure entry vestibule as well in this building. Denti, again, we would be looking to install isolation valves both domestically and on the heating side, as well as replacing many of the FRP exterior doors throughout the building that were previously identified for replacement. And on the right here, you can again see the concept for the secure entry vestibule. Gansevoort, we have a little bit more scope here for building condition survey items. Again, isolation valves, but we would be including some flooring repairs, which would be cracking in the terrazzo flooring throughout the building. The repairs would be more aesthetic than anything. There is no concern in terms of structural value there. We'd also be including hot water heater replacements in the boiler room and the boilers themselves, as well as installing a split unit system in the IT closet to better temperature the heat coming from the data closet and server racks, as well as landing on a grease trap replacement in the kitchen space. At John Joy, again, we would have a new secure vestibule, as well as installing a drinking fountain down towards the gym that was previously requested, and installing new isolation valves like all the other elementary schools. Ridge Mills, on the right, again, you can see the secure vestibule, as well as replacing exterior windows throughout the building. Some of them are starting to reach the end of their useful life. We would be installing an interior library storefront system that divides the computer lab to the rest of the library space, which was determined off of a previous walkthrough, and installing smoke detectors where they are not currently provided to bring those spaces up to code, and to replace the makeup air unit in the kitchen as well. Jumping to Stokes, again, as I previously mentioned, we would be installing a split system, which is essentially a small air conditioning unit for the server room. This is always a request for IT directors because there is a lot of heat buildup from server racks in those spaces, as well as replacing corridor lockers. They are reaching their end of useful life, and some of them are damaged throughout the building. And we would be replacing some of the fire alarm audio and visual units throughout the building, so horns and strobes. Strow, we currently are identifying to replace the water main, which the facilities department has explained to us that is definitely a need, as well as updating the finishes in the stairwells throughout the building. This would be similar to something we recently did at RFA, where we would replace the stair treads and be painting within the space. So lastly, jumping over to RFA, here you can see the exterior scope that I previously talked about, which would include that multi-purpose field, which would be hard striped as a softball and baseball field, and would always have the flexibility to be striped temporarily for any other sports, which could be a soccer and lacrosse field. We would also be allocating space for a potential grass football practice field and resurfacing those tennis courts, all 7 currently, as well as allocating some space for a new cross-country running trail, even if that is somewhat of a gravel or cinder trail throughout the property. With those sports, we would be including bleacher seating and enough parking for all sports to host any competitions. Interior, we would be focusing on the fire alarm system replacement throughout the entire building, as well as some general condition improvements in terms of finishes and some roof work. So looking at our current concept here for the sports complex, again, this is very initial conceptual rendering. So this can and might change moving through design should this project pass, but you can see right adjacent to RFA, we are showing the baseball and softball field oriented correctly for competition, as well as a striping plan for a soccer and lacrosse field. And we would be bringing the tennis courts down to this property right below RFA in order to master plan a potential football and track stadium space up on the property where it's labeled for future development, should the district ever decide to move the football stadium to this property adjacent to RFA in the future, in a future project. So in terms of timeline, as you may know, the vote for this project is March 22nd of this month. Should the project pass and approve, we would begin design immediately on the project with a potential submission to SED in late 2022 or early 23. We would have to wait for SED approval, which is currently 6 to 8 weeks for their review and approval. So if that timeline maintains, we would look to bid the project immediately after and start construction in the spring of 2024, with construction carrying all the way through the fall of 2026, potentially, just due to the number of buildings and the site work required at RFA. So in terms of estimates, this kind of breaks down every building. So totaling, we are around $21 million, and specifically is $21,608,018 proposed for this project. This does include all hard costs and soft costs, which are contingencies and escalation due to the volatile bidding environment that we are all aware of at this point. And lastly, your cost summary and any local tax impact, which we are showing as none. So the project, as I mentioned, is $21.6 million, and the district is intending to use $3,410,000 of capital reserve to offset any potential tax impact that would be there if we were not using that capital reserve. So you can kind of see how this breaks down a little bit more, but due to the capital reserve usage, we would be showing an estimated annual impact on tax levy as a slight negative across the board. This does not mean a credit on your tax rate, but it would have zero tax increase on any household throughout the district. And this is based on a 90% building aid ratio that the district receives from New York State Ed. And then lastly, Peter, I'll let this turn over to you for the vote on the 22nd.
Thank you, Justin. So as mentioned, there will be a follow-up to this next Tuesday where folks have an opportunity to ask questions, and this will be on the website. The newsletter has already been mailed out. That should be coming home sometime this week, but the newsletter is on the website currently already. The capital project vote is scheduled for Tuesday, March 22nd, just under 2 weeks from now, from 9 a.m. till 8 p.m. These are the locations. With the loss of Staley, Ward 1 will be voting at Bell Road this year. So Wards 1 and 2 are at Bell Road, which is different. The rest of these locations should be similar to what we've seen in our previous votes. Next Tuesday night, March 15th at 6 p.m., we are in person at RFA in the small auditorium. So for anyone that has questions on the project that wants to come, ask them, feel free to stop by. If you would like to email questions, feel free to do that as well. You can contact Mr. Meza or myself through email. We'll do our best to answer any questions that you may have. But again, the vote is scheduled for Tuesday, March 22nd from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. If you are an absentee voter or you know someone that's an absentee voter, We've already sent out a lot of ballots for absentee voting, but if someone needs to vote by absentee ballot, they need to contact the district office, specifically the business office. We'll mail that out. Absentee ballots are due back next Tuesday, March 15th. So if you are an absentee voter or know of an absentee voter, have them contact us if they have not already. We'll get that ballot to them, and they are due back next Tuesday, March 15th. With that, I am going to say thank you to everybody in the community that chimed in for a brief time tonight. We look forward to possibly seeing you next Tuesday night. Thank you all for your time. And if you know folks that couldn't make it tonight, please direct them to the website. The presentation and video from tonight will be there first thing in the morning. Thanks, everybody. Have a great evening.